wanted to get right into things, didn't want to waste any time resetting stuff up. So here I am. There's stuff playing that I'll either have reused or re-recorded. This is called behind the scenes, folks. They don't let you do this at the fancy Hollywood studios. They only do it here in fake New York. But thanks for joining me today. We're here again, chatting. Well, I'm chatting to you. You might be listening. Maybe you're in your car. But let's just dive right into a topic of discussion off the top of the dome, off the brain. I'm the Harry Mack of podcasts. But by the way, if you haven't seen Harry Mack, go look up his stuff. He's found his rhythm. He is hitting his stride with the improvisatory game. He's been known, like, you give him a word, he'll create a whole universe. You give him 3 words, he'll rewrite history and create new history. He's great. Go check out Harry Mack. And that's a good thing to actually talk about today. Improvisation. What does that mean? You've seen me do it for now 40 episodes. Improvised. You think I write a script for this? You think I'm like sitting here being like, all right, today I'm going to talk about subbing, and I'm going to do a bit in a New York accent. That's good. And then maybe I'll play a little piano. We'll do it at rehearsal. No, there is no rehearsal. Life is often not about rehearsals. You think someone goes to like, oh, I'm going to practice being this. Like, even the people who go to like med school, all the years of study, the different, on the job training, the years that they have to put into to get, anywhere close to being a doctor or being a nurse or being a technician, they're not improvising. Well, that's not what I meant to say. They're improvising. That, for as many textbooks and lectures and like hypothetical scenarios and brainstorm sessions and theoretical positing of situations, they still have to improvise. Something they could do a thing, and it's like, oh, cool, I administered the usual amount of drugs for this patient for helping with pain. I gave him this painkiller, and then they have a reaction to it. Oh, well, it turns out they're actually allergic to they're a rare percentage of patients that are allergic to this thing. So we have to change it on the fly. All right, let's go get me, 20 cc's of, I don't know. What are medical terms? Go get me a thing to put in the person. And, that's what I've been doing. Sort of. It's not I've been a doctor this whole time, and you have seen that in evidence by me in the same room, playing a piano or not, because hey, it's my podcast. I'm the producer of this podcast. So I made a call upstairs and I was like, hey, we don't have time to set up the set for today's podcast. And they were like, but it's literally like one keyboard and a camera. And I was like, hey, I don't pay you to mouth off to me. All right. I'm usually upstairs. I'm down here, but I'm calling upstairs because I'm trying to get this done. You don't pay us at all. In fact, there's no team. This is just you talking to yourself. Yeah. What else is new? That's the theme of the podcast. Seems like you don't really grasp what we're trying to go for here at the Dutch Snedeker Podcast Incorporated. We're not a corporation. You don't like filing things, and you hate paperwork. Yeah, you're right. I don't really like paperwork. I begrudgingly learned how to do paperwork so that I can continue my meager existence. Well, yeah, you should. Oh wait, that's up. This is the upstairs phone. For continuity's sake, this is the upstairs phone. This is the downstairs phone. Well, you can continue doing, your own work. Who cares? Who's even, making the call or not? Look, I just need we need synergy in this company, okay? We need synergy to create an innovative, cohabitable, progressive, uh, you know, uh, award winning. I don't know. What are more buzzwords? Do that. Do the buzzwords. And scene. Thank you. I didn't go to acting school, and I'm clearly the best actor in this room. So try and argue that, people. As you can tell, with improvisation comes the ability to grab onto an idea and extend it. That's why when you hear a jazz solo, it's not just like, even that was me doing random rhythmic stuff with it. Like, it's not, all right, take your solo. Oh, here it comes, he's coming, go for it. Beep. Gee, thanks. Love that solo, that one note. There's a video Adam Neely did about the worst solo ever, where the saxophone player in question, he who knows what he was doing that day, but it was like one or two notes. It was like a rock and roll-y, early rock and roll, kind of like jump. What is it? Jump music, jump rock and roll. I don't know. They're like, but he was like, like just out of tune, just sounded sloppy. He was either tired or out of it, or I don't know. But improvisation is an interesting beast because you can take it to extreme places. You got your Mark Rebier's, your Reggie Watts's, and even they're not as extreme as you could get with it. There are people who, they improvise to paintings, or there's a dude who tours and does like house concerts where it's just him, a microphone, and a snare drum, and he's like hitting it all crazy, and he's like, literally like thrashing around on a table with it, and then like knocks it over, and then puts the mic up to the snare and turns the snare on so it's all rattly, and then just starts yelling into the mic. Like, there's that kind of improvisation where it's like pure energy and there's no like, oh, here's the harmony and the changes. But I feel like most people get the wrong idea of what improvisation is. I heard a discussion on the H3H3 podcast, the H3 After Dark, specifically that podcast. I try to tune into all their stuff every week, but all their podcasts are so long, and sometimes I only catch certain bits, or like sometimes I'm not in the mood to listen to a 2-hour podcast, or whatever the case is. And the discussion was over this kind of classic meme within the H3H3 podcast community, where it was R. Kelly, arrested monster. R. Kelly was singing in Ethiopia, and he was riffing on, this vamp that the band was doing. Like, I'm pretty sure it was just a song of theirs, or like the vamp from a song of his. Or maybe it was a prearranged interlude where it's like, all right, you're going to talk to the crowd and we'll react to you. Because he's like, he's singing a song about basically wanting to take home someone from Ethiopia, which is, now you're looking at it and it's like, that's horrible. But it's memed because it's so just weird. and like he's just singing like, do you have your passport? Did you get your shots? Girl, would you like to come back with Rob to America? And then the background, the backup singers are, America, America. He's like singing, and then he hits the high note and the band goes crazy. And the discussion in that, they were talking about, or they were polling the audience too, the live audience that was watching at the time of the recording, because they have live streams for members. They did a poll and basically were like, oh, hey, do you think this was rehearsed or improvised? And elements of it, I think, were rehearsed. Like the band was rehearsed, like, hey, you're going to do this vamp. We'll have this vibe. It'll tee up the next song, or, however they want to organize it. And then R. Kelly did the riffing because, he just kind of played to the energy in the room, which was just a bunch of people being like, I will do anything you want, R. Kelly, because I am attracted to you, or or whatever. Like that was the vibe. I never got into R. Kelly. I would hear some of his songs, growing up, going to high school parties or the roller rink. Which, when's the last time you ever been to the roller rink? That's something I honestly can't remember the last time I went skating at a roller rink. I rather roller blading. I was never good at skating. I always wanted to be good at skating. I think that's still a goal of mine, as the same goal I have to eventually learn how to dance. That's not just, oh, I know how to move my body in time. Like I feel like I learn over and over again how to two-step, and then enough time goes by where I remember how to two-step. And it's easy. It's apparently it's just two steps, but it's a little more involved. But when you don't do it a lot, because usually when I'm dancing, it's in a crowded space, so I don't feel like I can move around, or I'm the source of the music people are dancing to, whether I'm working a show or I'm playing a show. But anyway, improvisation is, you saw it happen there. I started on a topic. I got to the tangent within the tangent, the tangent within the tangent within the tangent, and then brought it back home. Not really, but like kind of abruptly. Just circled back to like, we were talking about improvisation. So improvisation on the stage, if you're not following it that closely, it seems like it can seem one of two ways. Let's say it's a jam band playing a 10-minute solo. You might go, wow, his solo was 10 minutes long. That's insane. I've never heard anyone play a solo that long. He killed it. Cool. But you might have missed the part where he was interacting with the drummer, and then maybe he was singing and playing a riff, or maybe he turned on a different pedal and now that changed the character of his solo. Maybe he went from not as busy to shreddy. There's an ebb and flow to that kind of, long solo. Sometimes it's just literally noodling for what seems like hours. And then you have like, go listen to like Corey Henry's song or arrangement of Donna Lee off of his album Gotcha Now, Doc, where he has an organ trio. I think he takes two choruses, and it's so well outlined. It's so succinct that you don't need any more from him. And it's those times where you're like, man, you really don't need 15 minutes when you could say a lot in two choruses. So improvisation depends on who's doing it, how it's being done, when it's being done, where it's being done, who, is interacting with the improvisation. Is it just a soloist? Is it the band supporting a soloist? Is it soloists interacting together, trading, harmonizing? going in and out of soli parts to do solo parts, soli pre-written stuff that is for multiple instruments. It's cool. It's dynamic. It can take you to the furthest reaches of music and back again, because when you're improvising, you're not thinking a lot about the specifics of it. You're thinking of the arc of what you're improvising. Because if I were to sit here and try and do a solo podcast for, a half hour, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and I was going like, and I think that if I was just taking very careful steps, that is a form of improvisation, but it's a little too separated. And granted, maybe you want something to sound separated, but usually when you're improvising, there's some vocabulary being exercised. You have, the jazz language, the outlining of the harmonies, the enclosures, which is, if let's say you're playing in F dominant 7, this is where I should have set up my keyboard, but F dominant 7, the core tones of an F dominant 7 are the 3rd and 7th. So the A and the E flat. An enclosure would be approaching the A or the E flat from the note above or below it, in half steps. So you could, walk down to B flat, hit the A flat, and then go back up to A. That's an enclosure, because you're surrounding the note you're going to land on with other notes, preparing the ear for that arrival, but also demonstrating the phrasing, I guess, that can come from that type of idea. So when I'm improvising in podcast form, I'm not so much thinking of how I want every single word, every single motion in a sentence, in an idea to go. I'm starting, and then I'm using my vocabulary like you would as an instrumentalist. You'd use your scales, your arpeggios, your different licks and tricks you've picked up from your favorite artists, or that you've been taught, or you just figured out for the first time, and you're just going, and you might have some idea of like, all right, here's how I kind of want to end it, or here's the mood I want the solo to be in, or I'm going to play really fast, or I'm going to play very lyrically and slow, or there's a lot of room for how improvisation works. So for this type of podcast to work, I have to keep things moving, and I have to acknowledge when I'm starting to repeat an idea, which is also a good thing to understand about playing music and improvising a solo. You want to, if you've got some good licks in the back pocket that you want to use, save them. Don't come blazing. I've heard so many solos where people just they rock it out, and they like slay one chorus, and then they realize they have two more, and they're like, oh no, I already ended this solo like I was done, and I have more. You gotta pace yourself. That's why it's interesting with jam bands. The pacing often is just like, it just feels like it's telling you like, yeah, we're going right down the street, and then the street keeps getting longer, and you're like, when are we getting to the store? No, it's just down the street. Yeah, but we've been walking for like 10 minutes, and you said it was like 2 blocks away. Yeah, it's right over there. And why is it feels like it's getting further away. And then sometimes with jazz, it's like, you have if you're listening to it and you're not educated on the vocabulary, you have, or even just the formula for it all, because you might not hear when the the presentation of the melody, the head, you might not know when that ends and the soloing begins because of how it's arranged. And sometimes it's a little more nuanced, but generally it's like you present the tune, here's a melody, some harmonies, a groove, you know, some sections maybe, and then you've got your featured soloists. Maybe it's just one, maybe it's different soloists on different sections, maybe you're looping a new entire part that's just for the solo section. And it can feel like walking down a street where you're in a new city and a stranger from another country is guiding you to the store, and you're like, I know he's trying to get me to the store, and I know I'm supposed to be, you know, attentive to what he's saying, but I just don't understand him, and I don't have a translator right now. I know after we get somewhere, I can ask somebody, you know, like once the band gets off the stage, then you can ask like, oh, what was up with that one tune? Like you all were playing, but like it seemed like everyone was soloing at once, or like what was that? You know, ask questions when you're wondering about how songs are put together, improvisation and all that. So, you know, like just there, I noticed, partially because of my it's late, I noticed my brain kind of went into like okay, you're gonna talk about where's and then it went shoop and it refocused, like, you know, this webcam I was using earlier that kept going in and out of focus. And there are those times where you just have to acknowledge that, all right, the idea is past, keep moving, you know, try something new, play around with another idea. You know, sequencing is always great. That's why you hear like, if you go, it might've been within this last week, Nicholas Payton, go to his Instagram, and, he's got a video where he's just sequencing one lick over this groove, and it's like the tension is building from the repetition, even though he's like, you know, he's changing what notes are in that phrase, but he's doing the like like just playing that kind of lick. And the energy's building and building, because it's like, okay, is he gonna do something else? He's gonna do something else. The drummer's going crazy. He's playing off it. You know, like doing the, what is it? The cymbal choke. Yeah, that's probably what it is. A cymbal choke, where you like hit the cymbal and then just grab it so it's not ringing. Or, you know, other genres, you know, improvisation can be in all sorts of genres, and it depends on the genre how much improvisation plays a role. You know, pop music, not a lot of improv, a lot of arrangements, maybe a little bit of wiggle room for a solo. Usually those are prearranged. Same with, you know, rock and roll. And metal too. Metal, you know, definitely has a lot of arranging more than improvisatory stuff. Because of the nature of the music. It's a lot of, you know, a lot of gear and energy and all sorts of just like elements coming together. And sometimes it's very, you know, technically demanding music, like, you know, playing technique. So to have things arranged helps, you know, like I hear some of these songs and you're like, okay, how do they remember, like, all right, this song's called Intelligent Design. And you're like, okay. And it's like, like alternate picking, like, and then like it repeats. And you're like, what? How do they remember that? And then they go to the next song. It's like, thank you, this song's called The End of All Things. And it's just like they're ringing their guitar, and then it's like, boo, dib, 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 you know. And you're like, what? How? Okay, that. And then someone solos, and it's like, You can hear, you know, you know, just some hook. And, you know, there's other genres where like improvisatory is the founding aspect of it, you know, like a raga in like India or something, or, you know, an African piece that there's more liberty to an African piece, all of Africa. You know, like, you know, cultures that play around more rhythmically, or they play around more in the space of like a template, versus just having very strict arranged stuff. And then the freedom comes from maybe a cadenza, or, you know, like in classical music, or, you know, the freedom of interpretation, you know, this, you know, like Helen Grimaud plays Handel differently than, I don't know, Yuja Wang or something. Or is that even a pianist? It's so late that I'm like, I said that with such confidence, and I'm like, I meant Hiromi Uhara, but Yuja Wang sounds, you know what? Let's go to the tape. Let's go to the tape. We're gonna go to the tape. My keyboard's all the way over here. Where's the little line? Okay, I was looking for the Yuja. No. Yeah. Ha. She is a pianist. See, I know what I'm talking about. You think I just come here just lying to you? It's improv. It's not just lying. But improvisation, it's a good tool. It's a good life skill. You know, you got to understand that there are times where you're going to have to think on the fly. There's no recipe book. There's no self-help guide. There's no, you know, like, oh, I always have my friend here, or my spouse here, or my, you know, my, like when you, you know, train a dog and you're like, we didn't go over this in training. What happens if he starts chasing a squirrel? It's like, just figure it out. I don't know. What am I supposed to tell you? Like, I'm supposed to just help guide every step of your life? No. And most people improvise and they don't think about it that way. They just think of it as like, they just think like, oh, it's just my job. It's like, no, when there was a 12 top that suddenly appeared and you quickly pushed 3 tables together to make it happen, that's improv. You know, those 3 tables weren't set up that way. There was no reservation. It was just some dude being like, hey, let's go overwhelm the wait staff, because, you know, it's Friday and we didn't put in a reservation, but you know how the Blake Meister rolls. We don't put reservations. We just show up, flash that platinum card, and we get service. Like, those people who show up with a 12 top on a Friday, and they're just like, okay, can you go? How long will it take to see 12 people? 12 people. The restaurant is packed, madam. And it is 2 hours from close. So you might get it in an hour, but y'all are crazy. So yeah, that's improv. Or when you're taking care of plants, you know, plants have some rules, you know, sunlight, water, nutrients, good soil, good environment, climate-wise, but there's a lot of variables. So if your plant starts wilting and you're like, maybe it's too hot. Maybe I need to put it somewhere a little bit cooler. Maybe it's not getting enough sun. Let me move it. You know, that's improv. It's mini improv. There's a vocabulary, watering plants, taking care of plants, and then there's the action that isn't scripted ahead of time, moving the plant into sunlight to help it grow better, and that is on the fly. It's all improvised. You know? Or when you're talking to someone on the phone, that's improv in a way. your conversation can be improvisatory because you're trying to keep the flow of everything going, and you're thinking on the fly like, oh, I should ask this question. Oh, he brought up that movie. Let's do, like, there are parts of everyone's brain that know how to improvise. The tricky part is in music, it's not, it's not as natural as speaking for the majority of people. And that's why sometimes it can be hard and why to understand, and why people, often equate music as a language, because there is a set of vocabulary that you need to learn. There's a level of comfort you need on your instrument and a command over that vocabulary. It's like if I were to just go abroad to France, I wouldn't know how to speak the language. I'd be like, I'd probably call my friend Hannah and be like, hey, help. Can you come just live near me for the next week and translate everything? Although I'm sure a lot of French people speak English too. But, I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert on something I haven't learned the vocabulary in, nor would I try to dive too much into the deep end in that sense too. Jamming is a way to flesh out the vocabulary and the improvisatory stuff and all the other things that go with it. But there's a time and a place for all of it. So, you gotta do what you gotta do. And I completely lost train of thought there for a second. So, improv. I'm back on it, baby. This is very tired. I look forward to showing you all eventually. I bought a hoodie that it's probably going to be the only hoodie I wear for the next year. It's from good old Philip DeFranco. Normally I don't buy, YouTuber merch. The first YouTuber merch I bought was the Teddy Fresh SpongeBob collab, because I was like, it's cute and I like SpongeBob and I like supporting, what they do. And then with Philip DeFranco, he put out a line of some shirts and I think sweats and a sweatshirt that it says exhausted on it, and that's kind of how I feel. I'm not on the caffeine. I'm readjusting again because I kind of dipped on the diet. It's not like oh no, I put on 15 of the pounds I thought I lost. It's like, no, I'm just eating. I'm still the same weight, but I'm feeling less healthy because I'm eating less healthy. So, and that was just purely because I've been running around and not taking the time to properly, cook a quick meal or reheat a thing that was like from a thing, and just life. I wish I could have what the Obamas had. Not the presidency. I don't think I'd ever want to be president. More so the perks of, being a decision maker and having decisions made for you. So like with Obama, he wasn't going like, I'm going to wear this blue suit. We're going to go have some fun. Me and Michelle going to have a great time. It's okay, Obama. We need to speak truth to power, and the hardworking Americans need to feel that there is something there for them. He didn't pick out suits. I don't think it was Michelle. It was probably just a White House staffer. Like, they picked out like, hey, based on what you're doing today, you should probably wear this black suit. Okay. Thank you. God bless America. He wasn't picking out like, Michelle, thinking about chicken pot pie. Sounds great. Nope, he just went to the kitchen. They're like, here's the healthiest, optimized food. Unless we having a holiday, then you can have like a slice of cake or something. Like if I could have someone who's just like, I wake up and I'm like, oh man, it's a late night. I'm not really sure what I want for breakfast. And they're like, oh, that's cool. I made you this veggie omelet if you want it. Yes. I'll veggies and eggs. That's totally fine. I wish I had that type of, a surrounding team. But once again, with improv, I've gone on a tangent and I've left you all in the weeds. So I think it is time to venture out of the Everglades of this podcast episode and into the civilized world where I can navigate back to my house because I still have to drive back home from Grand Haven. And the music will be playing because I'm, hey, it's the end of the podcast. Look at me. You can, I don't know, support me on Patreon if you want. You can subscribe. You can do whatever you want with this content. It's free. You can listen to it or share it or, I don't know, ignore it. You can do jazz hands. Jazz hands in like a running motion. But appreciate y'all listening. And we'll see you next time for another episode. Whenever that is, it's usually on Sundays, but sometimes, like last week, I have things that prevent me from editing and uploading, and it's a bad time until I get it all figured out, and then we All right, see you.